Please start by telling me the short story of NetApp and how it's performed over the years.
Wow, the short story. We started in 1992. During most of the 90s, we were doubling annually, doubling revenue, doubling head count.
It's amazing.
100 people, 200 people, 400. The final doubling was from 1,000 to roughly 2,000, and from $500 million in revenue to roughly $1 billion. We hit the tech crash.com.
Yeah.
That was painful. Did layoffs, completely retooled the company from being a rah-rah tech company selling to other rah-rah tech companies to being a much more mature enterprise company selling to Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, and since then we've about quadrupled in size in this very new form. And now we've got the new economic meltdown kind of making us rethink a lot of stuff again.
Yeah, it's an amazing, amazing story. So amazing that you were recently ranked the #1 company in America to work for by Fortune magazine.
The interesting thing about that, you know, you look at our revenue, you look at our head count, the number of countries we're in.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, of all of the accomplishments we've ever had, Dan, our CEO, told me that was the one that meant the most to him, that he just was personally the proudest of it.
Well, I think that says a whole lot about your company and your team. What role do you think your senior leadership team has in your performance as a company?
I think a lot of stuff starts at the top. When I look at company performance, in general, I tend to think in organic terms as opposed to manufacturing. A lot of people say, how do you build a high-performance culture? Or
Yeah.
how do you run? How do you control? And I think a lot more of it is organic. It's about nurturing. It's about planting the right seeds, watering, and a lot of that stuff does come from the top. I mean, there's leaders all through, obviously, but it works its way down. And so I absolutely believe. I mean, I think Dan, when he joined. We started in '92, and he joined in '94. He really set the tone of a lot of cultural aspects that became so important.
Well, you tell a story in your book about when he joined, how he stood up in front of a group of people and asked them how honest they were with one another. Do I have it right?
Yeah, it was at an offsite meeting. So he joined as CEO, and naturally he held a strategy offsite with his staff pretty shortly after that. And one of the challenges we'd had as a company is a fair bit of politicking and just not the healthiest culture. And at the end of this 2-3 day meeting, he said, I want to ask a question. I want to ask everybody how they would rank our candor. And by candor, he said, I mean, did you say the same thing in the meeting that you're going to say outside the meeting? Do you think the other people, he said, I don't know you people, you know each other, you've been working together.
Yeah, right.
So scale of 1 to 5, 5 is good, rank the candor. I won't beat you up, I just need to know. We went around, and the score was about 2. Wow. I mean, you know, and he didn't beat us up, just like, you know, he said he wouldn't, but he just said, this is important to me. I can see we have a lot of work to do. And for years after that, he's not doing it as much anymore lately, but for years after that, he would just ask that question after the meeting, rank our candor, go around, and you know, people pay attention to what the boss looks at in that way, and he just really set very clearly what was important to him.
Well, how do you think, could you describe the way your team interacts with each other? The team that runs the company.
Yeah, you know, depending exactly how you define it, but say 12 people on that order. It's pretty friendly. I've heard of teams that have a lot of fireworks and you know, sometimes it's even sort of friendly insults, but it can be pretty fiery. Very collegial, very respectful. One thing that I've always admired about the team that Dan has built, very different people. When I look at the personalities, because you see a lot of teams where the whole team is in the mold of the leader. And I look at, for instance, Dan and Tom, who's really been sort of his second guy, Tom Mendoza, for so long. Now we have another Tom as well, who's the COO president coming up. But very different. I mean, Dan much more introverted, much more cerebral. Tom much more extroverted, much more focused on people's feelings, and myself also more introverted, more theoretical and philosophical. Dan tends to be more what are the numbers, and Dan just always encouraged such a different group of people. You could imagine it having negative consequences, and yet somehow he took that group and said, it's okay for you to all be different, contribute your different thing.
How do you think the team's conduct, the way you've just described, affects the company's performance?
I believe that, I mean, first of all, I think it's a positive impact on the financial performance. And one of the things that Dan believed coming into the company, I think, he'd had an experience of very, very negative financial performance as a result of sales fraud kind of stuff. I mean, he stepped into a very bad situation where people were sending equipment to companies that hadn't ordered it. I mean, forged purchase orders and so he saw very, very clearly that bad conduct can lead to horribly bad financial performance. So I mean, just from that perspective, he wanted to have a positive culture, positive values. But I think there's something more magic in performance when people care about their work, when they feel good about what they're doing. I don't think it's just they put in longer hours. There's something. I don't know how to quantify it, but the amount of work that people gets done pulling in the right direction is just enormously more powerful. So I think having a team that functions well, and I do think that spreads through the organization,
Exactly.
I think that's a very strong impact on a company's performance.